Hello there, you're watching WilhelMiniatures. In this episode, I'm going to continue making some Turnip 28 miniatures for Rebecca's Turnip 28 army. In the previous episode, I made these guys based on the Games Workshop Hobbit Goblins and the nice looking torsos by Saint Decent. I asked Rebecca what kind of mount she wanted for her miniatures and she said knights. So in this episode, I guess I'm going to make some Knightriders. The idea is just to make a knight into a steed and have the hobbit goblins ride it. So I sculpted this guy in Nomad Sculpt a couple of days ago. This is just a digital sculpt that I've split into different pieces, so it's movable. And I was thinking about making like a crawling knight so that the goblins can ride it. And how I think I can pose this one is just to start by marking everything, and then I guess I should just start moving it around. Its head needs to be a little bit tilted up, I guess. I didn't specifically make this one to be in like a crawling pose, so now that I changed the entire pose, I might have to move around a little bit on the pieces and resculpt some bits. Now it looks like the knight is tripping over something and falling on its face. Anyway, I'm just going to move its limbs around until I have a nice looking crawling pose. I made 3 different poses for the knight so that we can have a little bit of variation even though I'm using the same base sculpt. And on this one I elongated the arms so that it's a little bit like a monkey dressed up in an armor. I got a little bit carried away and sculpted an entire rider on a knight. This one is not going to be specifically for Rebecca's Turnip guys, I just wanted to make my own Knight Rider. She wanted her riders to be more mutants, but I think this one's going to be a fun one as well, so I'm going to print it and see how it works. And I'm going to make all of these prints available from my Patreon, so check that out if you would like to print some of these yourself. I'm really happy with these successful prints, and the crawling knights are looking quite good. So now I just have to remove the supports before curing them, and I'm going to dip them in some hot water to make the supports a little bit easier to remove. Or at least that's what the internet told me, so let's see if they are correct. Oh, yes. That made it a lot easier, actually. And then we'll just leave them to dry for a little bit before curing. Now these knights or knight mounts are ready to be used as mounts, I guess. So I printed 2 of each of the poses that I made, so I have 6 in total. I think a squad in the Turnip thing is supposed to be 5, so let's use these 5. The smaller ones and the one that's a bit more standing or a bit more upright than the others can be maybe a sort of leader, I guess, as it's the most different one. So to start I'll make these, or to start I will actually make one and see how well it works. Most of these heads have been removed and used for my Chaos project or my Dark Mechanicum project because I really like these nasty goblin faces. But even if they don't have heads, that's not really an issue in this case because I can just give them a helmet instead. Some of these already have very broad legs, so they might be ready for riding straight from the box actually. Let's try that first. I mean, that actually fits kind of great. I need to do a little bit of trimming and give it a saddle, but it's not that much work needed for these to work. I think this one too will be more or less ready. To make the transition between the 2 miniatures smoother, I'm going to use some fabric, and this is just an old t-shirt that I'm going to tear up. Usually I would use a pair of scissors to get a little bit more precision, but I want this one to be very tattered and worn, so I think I'm just going for tearing it up with these pliers or clippers. That should be good, I think. I'm going to use these oval cavalry bases for them, and I see now when I put it down approximately straight that I need to build up a little texture or a little something under the knees. I'm just going to use some cork for this. This can be made from whatever, really. I'm just going to use cork as it was laying here on my desk. But yeah, you can use cardboard or plastic card or pieces of sprue or just super glue, really. Ooh, 3D resin is so very hard and brittle, so it's difficult to convert things with it. This looks quite good, but I did end up with a very large gap in front here, and right now I'm too lazy to do green stuffing, so I'm going to give it a scarf, and I'm just going to use the same piece of t-shirt that I used for the saddle. Now it'll keep nice and warm. I'm using a little bit of watered down Mod Podge to keep the fabric in place. This is a great way to introduce some soft material to your miniatures. I made another one, almost exactly like the first, but I chose a different pose, so this one is leaning a little bit more forward. And I also kept the steed's knees up from the ground, so it looks a little bit more like it's ready to leap forward than slowly crawling. I thought I should show you the results of the fabric. So this one is still soft. I haven't coated it with the Mod Podge or PVA glue yet, while this one I coated yesterday and left it to dry overnight. And it's very nice because it's completely hard, almost like plastic. The glue really soaks into the fabric or the soft material that you're using, so I really recommend trying this out. It's a very nice way to quickly add some nice textures and details to your miniatures. I think I'm just going to make 3 Knightriders in this episode because I have 3 poses. But I want to do something fun with the last one. I'm choosing this taller knight, the one that's kind of standing a little taller than the others. Yeah, to make it stand a bit apart, but I think I want to make it stand even more apart. So I was thinking about adding some kind of saddle or throne to give a little bit more height to this one. And I like using organic materials in my build, so I was thinking about adding this shell. Thick superglue is definitely the best when it comes to gluing organic materials, I think, like shells or bones or something. I'm gluing down some patches of t-shirt over the shell on this one, and I want to have it hanging kind of over the transition between the knight or the armor and the shell. Then I think this one with a bent nose will be quite fitting, so let's see if it's possible to merge these 2 pieces together. The hat's supposed to go quite low, so I think I'm going to try to cut it just over the eyes. Or under the eyes in this case. Everything broke. Well, maybe it still works. Maybe if I turn it upside down like this. This is the look. And again, I'm just going to hide this bad transition with a scarf. Little t-shirt scarf. To finish off these miniatures, I'm applying a little bit of liquid green stuff to the printed pieces. I'm focusing this on areas where we can see the print lines. For example, on top of the helmet here, you can see that it's it looks a little bit like a fingerprint actually. That's the print line. So mostly on large flat areas, it's important to do this. But areas where you already have much detail, for example, the front of the helmet here with this, which already has this pattern, then the print lines more or less just disappear. With some quick base texturing, these Knightriders are ready for paint. I must say I'm really pleased with how these guys came out, and they were super easy to make. As you can see, I haven't done any green stuffing because I hid all of the transitions with the cloth, and it looks quite good and also adds another texture to the miniatures. So that's quite nice. I'm really happy with this one, with like the snail shell saddle. It adds a lot of character to it. And I also did a test print of this guy, and it turned out great. Even the lands came out quite nice. I was considering to snip it off and remove it with like a metal rod because it's very flexible, but I'll keep it like this for now, and then we'll see. If you would like to make any of these yourself, or print this one and yeah, paint some Nightcrawlers or make some Knightriders, then check out my Patreon. There you will find downloadable files for these ones so that you can get them yourself. Make sure to check it out. That's it for this one. I will see you all in the next episode.